Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for all of those who are returning, and thank you so much to all the new subscribers. All I can say is you guys have knocked my socks off. I cannot believe that I have almost, I think it's 1,300, a little over 1,300 subscribers. I just never ever in a million years dreamed it would be that many, and the number of views on my videos. Oh my gosh, I'm just blown out of the water with all of that. So I really wanted to give a heartfelt thank you to all of you that are subscribing and hanging in there with me and listening to me gab away and stitch. It's just amazing. You guys are absolutely wonderful, and I truly do appreciate each and every one of you. What I thought I'd do today is I had a couple people ask me on my diagonal stitching how I moved across the row, whether I went left to right, right to left, skipped around on the row. So I thought today what I would do is show you just how I do that. It really isn't difficult, and really what I do is I look at it as just one stitch at a time. So I do this first stitch, and it looks like I'm getting a little out of focus sometimes, but I do that first stitch, and then I'm going to move my chart over here, and hopefully you can see that. So that was this one. What I do then is I mark it off, and I look for where that stitch is again. So it's 1, 2, 3 over and 1, 2, 3 down. So I will place my thread there in 1, 2, 3 over and 1, 2, 3 down, and I'll place my thread in the lower left hand corner, because what I do is I always stitch my stitches lower left, upper right, lower right, upper left. So you always place it where that next stitch is going to start again. Then I look at the next thread. Now it just so happens my threads are already parked, so this row hopefully will be pretty easy. And then what I will do is I'll show you how I start a thread, and if there's an opportunity, how we end the threads. Okay, so this is a small M, and I'm going to place it here. Maybe it'll be a little less blurry. Now my my iPhone is attached via a gooseneck thing to my floor stand, so I apologize for the shakiness. So there's the M, and the next one is directly underneath it, so I'm going to place it there in the lower left hand corner. Okay, next symbol is a little Y, and I'm going to mark it off right away on the chart so that I know that I did that, because when you're in a high confetti area, oh geez, that's about the easiest way to do it and not end up getting confused as to what you did and what you didn't do. I'm going to show you also again how I thread my needle. I said in one of my first videos that in 30 years I have not used a needle threader, nor do I lick my floss. And what I do is I just lay it over my finger. I lay my needle on top, and I just push in and up and grab the little loop, and there it is. It takes a little bit of practice, and it takes a little bit of getting used to, but that's really so quick and so simple that I don't feel the need to let needles onto all the threads. Besides that, if you do that, boy oh boy, do they tend to get tangled, and I really don't want to take the time to mess with threads being tangled all over the place. So we're gonna stitch the Y, and then the next place is down in the next row and over 2 stitches, so we're going to park it there. Okay, and we're going to mark it off on the chart. The next symbol I happen not to have, so I'm going to have to get a thread for that. Pull that off my little organizer. Now, I start with a pin stitch, but let me show you how I do my pin stitches. Some people do them a bit differently. Some people start by coming up from the bottom and leaving a little smidge of a tail on the bottom and then doing their pin stitch. I start mine from the top. Okay, so this next stitch is the stitch that I need, and the stitch, let me scroll you in a little closer so that you can see it better. Sorry for if I made you a little nauseous there. Okay, so you can see there's the 2 threads going this way, the 2 threads that go this way that make up that square. What I'm going to do is go down in the very middle of those threads. Okay, and pull my needle through and pull my thread through, but I'm going to leave a tail long enough that I can get a hold of. All right, I'm going to use my finger and I'm going to lay it to either the left or the right, whichever you're more comfortable with. All right, I'm going to come up a side of the thread. All right, and I'm going to go back down in the middle. But when I go back down in the middle, I'm not going to go to the side of this stitch. I'm not going to go to the bottom of it or the top of it. I'm going to go directly on top of it, so that in essence what I'm doing is piercing that thread. That's what keeps your pin stitch secure. Okay, so see, I can pull on that now, and I'm shaking everything, but I can pull on that now and it's not going to go anywhere. Okay, all right, I'm going to come up on the other side and I'm going to go down in the middle again, and then I'm going to come up in my bottom left-hand corner. I'm just going to let my needle there, but what I'm going to do now is take a hold of this tail, pull it up as tight as much as I can, and take my scissors and clip it off. Okay, so you're clipping it off as close to the fabric as you can get it, and yeah, you can see it, but I can pull on this. You see, see how it's pulling the fabric up? It's not going to go anyplace. It will not come undone. And believe me, folks, if you have to frog this, you have a heck of a time getting that little pin stitch out of there. All right, so now what I will do is complete my stitch. And cover it up, and you barely know that it's there, and it will be virtually unable to be seen once the rest of your stitches are filled in around it. Now, ironically, I don't have to use that color anyplace else in my next, wow. That's the only place that color is for the rest of this diagonal. So what I can do is end it off right away. And here's another thing. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, they go several stitches away and then do their pin stitch that way. That thread gets stitched over and it's secure. And that is very true. However, a pin stitch done correctly is not going to come undone. And there really is, if you're going to go 5 stitches away and do your pin stitch, in my head, and this is strictly my opinion, there's no right way, there's no wrong way, and whatever way is comfortable for you is the right way. But in my opinion, there's no need to do that. If you're going to travel a little bit before you do your stitch and your stitch is going to be stitched over, why do a pin stitch? Okay, so what I do is I just go to the next stitch and end it off and do my pin stitch and cut off my thread. Okay, so I'm just going to go over one stitch, and as you see or will see, there's already a thread parked there. So this is going to be, this isn't like I'm going to have to start a stitch in this square. There's already a thread parked there. I'm going to come up. I'm going to go down in the center and see how it all but disappears. All right. I'm going to come up on the other side. Okay. I'm going to go down in the center, and I'm not going to go to the side of that, what I just put on. I'm going to go right on top of it. Down. Pull it up somewhere, anywhere, doesn't matter. Okay. Pull it, really pull on it so that when you cut it, you're cutting as close to the fabric as you can get, and because you've put all that tension on it, that little end should flip right down to the back. That again, folks, is not going to come out. Trust me, it's not going to come out. I've used this for years. I've not had anything come undone, so you really don't have to fear that your pin stitches are going to come loose. Now that's how I do mine. Okay, so fortunately we had that opportunity right here that I could show you that. I already marked it off. So I'm going to go to my next stitch, which is a filled in heart. Okay, thread my needle. Do the next stitch. And normally I stitch two-handed, but in order for you to be able to see, I don't want my left hand blocking, okay, blocking your view. So the next one is parked right here. So it's the M and then the heart. And then the A. Now, it didn't happen in this row, but many times it will. I'm stitching an A right now. Now, my next ones are down further, but say should that A occur again in this row, I would park my thread in that next space that it's called for. I do not stitch that stitch. What I would do then is stitch this stitch in between with whatever color that might be, and then, or there's actually show two stitches in between here. So I would stitch them in the order that the row goes. Okay, so I stitched the A, I parked it at the next occurrence, I go back and stitch this stitch, stitch this stitch, then stitch the A again and park it the next rows down. So that's really what I wanted to show you, and unfortunately that doesn't happen for the next couple rows, but I just did want to explain that. It helps me to keep track a little better, and you're going one at a time. Now let me stitch this other stitch and then I'll tell you another thing. When I'm parking it, when there's several stitches in a row, okay, so I have this symbol and I'll park it. Now in the next row, this symbol occurs on this stitch and on this stitch. Okay, so it occurs directly beneath it and it occurs one over. Because I stitch right to left across the row, when I have two stitches together like that, where I will park it is the furthest of that set of stitches to the left. So since I have a stitch here and a stitch here, I'm going to park it here. Okay. The reason I did that is I will show you on this particular color. This is now 3 stitches in a row, pardon me, of the same color. Okay, so what I do then is thread my needle and go 1, 2. Oh, pardon, I'm so sorry for this shaking. I have to find a better way to do this or something else to mount my goosenecky thing onto so that it doesn't shake like this for you. So bear with me, folks. I will eventually come up with something that works better. Okay, so we stitch 3, then I will go back and cross them. When I first started doing diagonal stitching, what I did was stitched all of that same symbol in the row. Okay, so 1, 2. So if there was say a solid block, 2 stitches of a different color, a solid block, 3 stitches of a different color, a solid block, I would stitch all of those solid blocks. Then I would take the next color and stitch all of those until I had the row filled in. And that's what I explained on my initial diagonal stitching tutorial. What I have found and think it works better is just by going one stitch at a time across the row. So starting with the first stitch on the right, working that stitch or several stitches of that color, whatever it may be, and then parking it at the next occurrence. I think the stitches look neater doing it that way. So, as with anything else in this in cross stitch. We're always learning. We're always learning new things. We're always coming up with new things. And we're always looking for ways to make it better. And at least I am. And for me, this has made a big difference in how my X's lay. So that's what I've done. And what I like to do is share them all with you. So that if you want to use this technique, please feel free to do so. If it doesn't work for you, that's okay too, because not everything works for everybody. We all have to find our way, and we all have to use those tips and techniques that make it good for you. You know, I will not sit here and judge anybody. If you want to stitch the way I stitch, that's fabulous, and that makes me feel good. However, if it doesn't work for you, do you know what? That's fabulous too, because you're going to find your way and what works for you. This is going to be a short video today because I really want to get to working on some others. As a lot of you that have watched my videos already know, I'm working on a hardanger tutorial, and that's part of the reason I'm a little late in doing this one. So I just want to give you all an update. I have written up some information such as supplies and how to choose what threads you're using, needles, scissors, and all of that, which will be also part of the first video. I've drawn some diagrams on the sequence of the stitching, and that's what I was doing this week. After this video, I plan on doing the first video of the series, and what I'm going to do is stitch along with you and take you all through it step by step. Okay, so the first video is just going to be about what you need and why and things of that sort. And it will give you time to gather the supplies that you need in order to be ready for that first actual stitching video. First video will be how to do the foundation work of the cloister blocks, which sets the foundation of your piece. And then we'll go into, it will be a small piece, but we'll eventually get to having the whole thing finished. And it's probably going to be about ornament size, but I will explain all of that. So in the things that I've written up, I also have the pattern. What I'm going to do in that first video is give you my email. And what I will want you to do is send me an email, title it Hardanger, so that I know that you're interested in the tutorial. And I will send you a link to where I have all that information saved, so that you can get that, you can read through it and be ready for the tutorial. I plan to have that first information video up within the next, probably, I'm going to record it today, so it will probably also be up later today. I'm going to start, and I'm also going to try and record the first video. However, that will not be up until next week, so that I can give you time to gather what you need. And I will be out of town the end of this week and over the weekend. So that video will not go up until next week. And then from there, we'll work through the whole progress of all the tutorials on the different stitches that you need in order to get this project finished. And as I said, I will be stitching the piece along with you. So I'm going to hold your hand the whole way. Don't let it intimidate you, because really, even though it looks so delicate and so complicated, hardanger is extremely easy, and we'll get through it together. So with that being said, I'm going to call this, I'm going to end this video for today. I'm going to go make that first video for the tutorial. And again, thank you for joining me. Thank you for allowing me the privilege of your time. And most of all, find your joy.